My wife spent the whole pregnancy saying the baby wasn't mine. So I believed her. The baby isn't yours, Marcus. Sarah said it so casually while buttering her toast that Tuesday morning in March, like she was commenting on the weather. I nearly choked on my coffee. What did you just say? She looked up from her breakfast, 6 months pregnant and glowing in that way everyone always talks about. I said the baby isn't yours. I've been meaning to tell you. She took a deliberate bite of toast. Remember when I went to that conference in Denver back in September? Well, I didn't exactly spend all my time in meetings. My hands went numb. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered against the kitchen floor, sending ceramic shards and hot liquid everywhere. Sarah didn't even flinch. You're joking. But even as I said it, I knew from her expression that she wasn't. Sarah, tell me you're joking. His name is David. He's in marketing at Hoffman Industries. We've been in touch. She dabbed at her lips with a napkin, pristine and composed while my world imploded around the breakfast table we'd picked out together 3 years ago. I'm sorry you had to find out like this, but I thought you should know before the baby comes. I stared at her, this woman I'd been married to for 4 years, this woman I'd held while she cried over 2 miscarriages, this woman who just casually announced she cheated on me and was carrying another man's child. The morning sun streamed through our kitchen window, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air like nothing had changed, like everything was normal. 6 months, I said slowly. You've let me believe for 6 months that this was my baby. We painted the nursery. We bought a crib. We picked out names, Sarah. We picked out fucking names. She shrugged, actually shrugged, and placed a protective hand over her rounded belly. I wasn't sure at first. But the timing, it has to be David's. We were together right when I would have conceived. Have you been talking to him this whole time? My voice sounded foreign, like it was coming from someone else's throat. Sometimes. He has a right to know about his son. His son. I repeated the words like they were in a language I'd never heard before. What about me? What about us? I don't know, Marcus. I honestly don't know what happens now. Sarah stood up, smoothing down her maternity dress, the blue one with tiny elephants that I bought her last month because she'd said it made her feel beautiful. I need to get ready for work. We can talk about this later. She walked past me toward the stairs, stepping carefully around the broken mug, leaving me sitting alone in the wreckage of my marriage. I could hear the shower running upstairs, could picture her washing her hair like this was any other Tuesday, like she hadn't just dropped a nuclear bomb on our life together. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and scrolled to my brother's number. Jake answered on the second ring. Marcus? Everything okay? You never call this early. Jake, I said, staring at the coffee stain spreading across our hardwood floor, I need the name of that divorce lawyer you used. The silence on the other end stretched for so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Jake's voice came back, careful and concerned. What happened? My wife just told me the baby she's carrying isn't mine. Jake was at my door within an hour, carrying 2 cups of gas station coffee and the grim expression of someone who'd been through his own marital hell. He found me still sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the broken mug I hadn't bothered to clean up. Tell me everything, he said, settling into Sarah's chair. So I did. Every devastating detail of that morning, every casual word she'd used to destroy 4 years of marriage. Jake listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each sentence. Jesus, Marcus. That's. He shook his head. That's fucking cold, even for a cheating spouse. The worst part. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I actually believed we were happy. Last week she was showing me ultrasound pictures, talking about how excited she was for me to meet our son. She let me feel him kick 3 nights ago. Have you called Patricia Henley yet? She's the lawyer I used. She's expensive, $2.50 an hour, but she's worth every penny. I pulled up her number on my phone but hesitated. What if she's lying? What if this is some kind of breakdown, or hormones, or... Marcus. Jake's voice cut through my desperate rationalization. Listen to yourself. You're looking for excuses for someone who just told you she's been fucking another man and carrying his baby for 6 months. Stop it. He was right. I dialed Patricia Henley's office and somehow managed to secure an appointment for that afternoon. When I hung up, Jake was studying me with the same look he'd had when we were kids and I'd broken Mom's favorite vase. There's something else, I said. The conference in Denver where she claims it happened. I remember that weekend. She called me every night. Told me about the presentations, complained about the hotel food, said she missed me. She even brought me back a souvenir, some stupid Denver Broncos keychain that's probably still on my keys. Jake nodded grimly. Guilt gifts. Emily did the same thing. Came back from her girls' weekend with a new watch for me. Turns out she'd been in Atlantic City with her trainer the whole time. I pulled out the keychain, stared at the orange and blue logo. Such a small thing to represent such a massive betrayal. She seemed so genuine on those calls. We talked for hours. That's what makes it worse, Jake said. The calculated lying. It's not like she got drunk at a hotel bar and made a mistake. She planned this. She called you every night knowing she was in bed with someone else. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, working late tonight. Don't wait up. We should probably give each other some space to think. I showed Jake the message. He snorted. $10 says she's not working late. You think she's with him? I think she just blew up her marriage this morning and needs to figure out her next move. Question is, what's yours? I looked around our kitchen, at the coffee stain on the floor, at the refrigerator covered in ultrasound photos and baby shower invitations, at the calendar where we'd marked the due date in red hearts. 3 months from now, Sarah would give birth to a child that apparently wasn't mine, and I had no idea what that meant for any of us. I guess I'm about to find out what a good divorce lawyer costs, I said. Jake raised his gas station coffee in a mock toast. Welcome to the club nobody wants to join, little brother. Patricia Henley's office felt like a mausoleum, all dark wood paneling and heavy leather furniture that had probably witnessed 1,000 marriage dissolutions. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with steel gray hair pulled back in a bun so tight it could have been weaponized. Mr. Chen, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her mahogany desk. Your brother gave me the basics over the phone. Your wife is 6 months pregnant and claims the child isn't yours. That's right. I sank into the leather chair, which probably cost more than my first car. She told me this morning. Says she had an affair during a conference in Denver last September. Patricia made notes on a yellow legal pad with a gold pen that caught the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Has she asked for a divorce, or are you initiating proceedings? She hasn't asked for anything. Just dropped the bomb and went to work like nothing happened. Interesting. Patricia tapped her pen against the pad. In my experience, cheating spouses usually have an exit strategy before they confess. The fact that she told you without having her ducks in a row suggests either extreme guilt or what? Or this isn't what it appears to be. She leaned back in her chair, studying me with pale blue eyes that had probably seen every variation of human betrayal. Tell me about your marriage. Any previous issues with infidelity? Financial problems? Substance abuse? I shook my head. Nothing like that. We've been together 6 years, married for 4. 2 miscarriages before this pregnancy, but we got through those together. I thought we were solid. What about the pregnancy itself? Any unusual behavior from Sarah? I thought back to the past few months. She's been distant, I guess. More irritable than usual, but I chalked that up to hormones. She started working longer hours around month 4, said they were giving her more responsibility before maternity leave. Patricia made another note. The company she works for, do you know if they have dealings with Hoffman Industries? I have no idea. Why? David from Hoffman Industries, that's the alleged father's name, correct? If their companies work together, it would be easy enough to verify whether they actually met at this Denver conference. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even thought to question whether David was real. You think she made him up? I think we need to verify everything before we proceed. Divorce is expensive, Mr. Chen. My retainer alone is $15,000. If there's any chance your wife is lying, about the affair, about the paternity, we need to know before we start filing papers. 15,000. Jesus. What would you need to verify? Conference attendance records, hotel registrations, phone records if you're willing to subpoena them. It's not difficult to check if Sarah was actually in Denver when she claims to have met David. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back to September. She was definitely in Denver. She posted photos on Instagram, the conference center, her hotel room, some restaurant. I remember because I was jealous she got to travel while I was stuck with back-to-back client meetings. Photos can be misleading. What matters is who she was with. Patricia leaned forward. Mr. Chen, I have to ask, have you considered the possibility that your wife is lying about the affair entirely? Why would she lie about cheating? Any number of reasons. Fear of commitment, attention-seeking, testing your devotion to the marriage. Some people create chaos when life gets too stable or predictable. The idea hit me like ice water. Sarah, who'd been so calm this morning, so matter-of-fact about destroying our life together. Sarah, who'd shrugged when I asked about our future like she was discussing weekend plans. But why would she do that? Especially now, when she's pregnant. Patricia's expression softened slightly. Pregnancy can trigger intense psychological responses, particularly in women who've experienced previous losses. The miscarriages you mentioned, how did Sarah handle those? Badly. The second one especially. She blamed herself, went through a really dark period. Wouldn't talk about trying again for almost a year. And now she's 6 months along with a viable pregnancy. You think she's sabotaging it? I think we need more information before we assume anything. Patricia closed her legal pad and fixed me with that penetrating stare. Give me a week to make some calls. Don't confront your wife about David or the affair until we know what we're dealing with. Can you do that? I nodded, though the thought of going home and pretending everything was normal felt impossible. One more thing, Mr. Chen. If your wife is lying about this affair, if she's manufactured this entire scenario for psychological reasons, you're dealing with something much more complicated than simple infidelity. I drove home from Patricia's office in a daze, her words echoing in my head, something much more complicated than simple infidelity. The rush hour traffic on I-285 gave me too much time to think, to replay every interaction Sarah and I had shared over the past 6 months. Our house felt different when I walked through the front door at 6:47 p.m., like a crime scene I was revisiting. The broken coffee mug was still scattered across the kitchen floor where I'd left it that morning. I grabbed the dustpan and started cleaning up the mess, each ceramic shard a reminder of how quickly everything had shattered. Sarah's purse was on the counter. She was home. I found her in the living room, curled up on our sectional sofa with her laptop, still wearing that blue maternity dress with the elephants. She looked up when I entered, and for a split second, I saw something flicker across her face, uncertainty, maybe even fear. Hey, she said, closing the laptop. How was work? The normalcy of the question hit me like a slap. How was work? Sarah, this morning you told me you've been having an affair and the baby isn't mine. Now you're asking about my day. She shifted uncomfortably, one hand moving to her belly. I thought we agreed to give each other space to think. You said that in a text. I never agreed to anything. I remained standing, studying her face for any sign that Patricia might be right about this being an elaborate lie. I've been thinking, though. About Denver. Something definitely changed in her expression. Her shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. What about Denver? You called me every night. September 15th through the 18th. I remember because you complained about the time difference, said the conference dinners were running too late and you were exhausted. Sarah's fingers drummed against the laptop cover. So when exactly were you with David? Between the conference sessions and the nightly phone calls to your husband. Marcus, I don't need to give you a minute-by-minute breakdown of my infidelity. But her voice sounded different now, less certain than it had been that morning. The casual confidence was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost offensive. Actually, you do. I sat down in the armchair across from her, maintaining distance. If you're going to blow up our marriage with this confession, I think I deserve details. What does David look like? How old is he? Where did you meet him, the hotel bar, the conference center? Why are you interrogating me? Because 6 hours ago you destroyed my life, and now you're sitting here acting like we're discussing dinner plans. I leaned forward. Help me understand, Sarah. Help me understand how the woman who cried in my arms after our second miscarriage, who made me promise we'd never give up on having a family, could carry another man's baby and lie to me for 6 months. She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were glassy with unshed tears. Maybe I wanted to hurt you, she said quietly. The admission hung between us like a landmine. What? Maybe I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me. I stared at her, completely lost. What the hell are you talking about? When did I hurt you? Sarah's laugh was bitter, hollow. You really don't know, do you? You have no idea. Sarah, I swear to God, if you don't start making sense. Jennifer Morrison, she said, and my blood turned to ice. Jennifer Morrison. My coworker. My friend. My. Oh, Christ, I whispered. Jennifer Morrison, Sarah repeated, watching my face carefully. Your work wife. The woman you've been having lunch with twice a week for the past year. The one whose texts make you smile at dinner. The one you bought birthday flowers for in November. My mouth went dry. Sarah, Jennifer is a colleague. A friend. We work on the same accounts. A friend. She nodded slowly. Is that what you call someone you're emotionally cheating with? Emotionally cheating? Are you insane? I've never so much as touched Jennifer inappropriately. But you wanted to. It wasn't a question. Sarah shifted on the couch, her hand still resting on her belly. Don't lie to me, Marcus. I've seen how you look at her at company parties. I've watched you light up when her name appears on your phone. The worst part was, she wasn't entirely wrong. Jennifer was. Jennifer was easy to talk to. She laughed at my jokes, shared my interests in hiking and craft beer, never rolled her eyes when I got excited about work projects. She was everything Sarah had stopped being somewhere along the way. Even if that were true, I said carefully, thinking about someone isn't the same as fucking them at a conference and getting pregnant. Isn't it? Sarah's voice rose slightly. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your husband fall in love with someone else right in front of you? To sit at those horrible company Christmas parties and watch him hang on every word some other woman says. I never fell in love with Jennifer. You fell out of love with me. The tears were flowing freely now. After the second miscarriage, you checked out, Marcus. You were physically here, but emotionally you were gone. And then Jennifer started at your firm, and suddenly you had someone new to connect with. Someone who didn't carry the baggage of our dead babies. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That's not. Sarah, that's not how it was. Then how was it? Because from where I sat, my husband started working late, started texting at all hours with his colleague, started talking about Jennifer's opinions on everything from client presentations to Netflix shows. When's the last time you asked for my opinion on anything? I opened my mouth to argue but realized I couldn't remember. When had Sarah and I stopped talking about work, about shows, about anything beyond household logistics and doctor's appointments? So you decided to get revenge by making up an affair? Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I didn't make up anything. Then David exists. David exists. And you slept with him in Denver. A pause. A long, telling pause. Yes. You're lying. The certainty hit me like a revelation. Jesus Christ, Sarah, you're lying about all of it. I'm not lying. Look me in the eyes and tell me you had sex with David from Hoffman Industries in Denver last September. She met my gaze for about 3 seconds before looking away. I don't have to prove anything to you. Actually, you do. Because I hired a divorce attorney today. Patricia Henley. $250 an hour, $15,000 retainer. She's going to verify every detail of your story, conference records, hotel registrations, whether David even exists. Sarah's face went white. You hired a lawyer. What did you expect me to do? You told me the baby isn't mine and you've been cheating on me. Did you think we'd just keep playing house? I thought. She struggled for words, looking younger suddenly, more vulnerable. I thought you'd fight for me. The admission hit the room like a bomb. I stared at her, this woman I'd shared a bed with for 4 years, and realized I might not know her at all. You wanted me to fight for you, I said slowly, so you told me you were carrying another man's baby. That's not what I meant, Sarah said, but her voice was barely a whisper now. Then what did you mean? I stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked our backyard, the yard where we'd planned to put a swing set. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you decided to torture me with an elaborate lie to get some kind of twisted revenge for a relationship that existed entirely in your head. It wasn't entirely in my head. Her voice was stronger now, defensive. You think I didn't notice when you started working out again right after Jennifer got hired? You think I didn't see you buying new shirts, getting your hair cut more often? I turned back to face her. I was trying to feel better about myself after watching my wife fall apart for 8 months. Sue me for going to the gym. And the phone calls with Jennifer that you'd taken in the garage? The ones you thought I couldn't hear. My stomach clenched. There had been a few calls, work stuff mostly, but personal too. Jennifer going through a rough breakup, me offering advice. Her asking about my marriage, me admitting things weren't great at home. Those were what? Were you telling her things you wouldn't tell me? About us? About our problems? The silence that followed was answer enough. Sarah's face crumpled. God, Marcus. Do you have any idea what that felt like? To find out from overhearing a phone call that my husband thought our marriage was struggling. You never talked to me about it. You just started talking to her. You wouldn't talk to me. The words exploded out of me. After the second miscarriage, you shut down completely. 4 months, Sarah. You wouldn't discuss trying again, wouldn't go to counseling, wouldn't even let me touch you most of the time. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to wait for me to heal. I did wait. I waited 8 months while you treated me like a roommate instead of a husband. Jennifer was just. She was someone who actually wanted to have conversations with me. Sarah struggled to push herself up from the couch, her pregnant belly making the movement awkward. So you decided to have an emotional affair. And you decided to invent a physical one. I moved to help her stand, an automatic gesture that felt wrong under the circumstances. She flinched away from my touch. I told you, I didn't invent David. Fine. Prove it. Give me his last name. His phone number. The hotel where you supposedly met him. She walked to the kitchen, moving slowly, one hand pressed to her lower back. I followed, watching as she filled a glass with water from the tap. Her hands were shaking slightly. The Marriott downtown, she said without turning around. David Kellerman. He was presenting on market analysis trends in the tech sector. The specificity caught me off guard. His phone number. I deleted it. When? This morning. After I told you. She turned to face me, leaning against the counter. I knew we couldn't. I knew there was no going back after that. How convenient. Marcus, I'm 6 months pregnant. I can barely tie my own shoes. Do you really think I'm coordinating some elaborate deception here? I think you're capable of a lot more than I gave you credit for. I pulled out my phone. Patricia said she could verify conference attendance. If David Kellerman was presenting on market analysis in Denver last September, there will be records. Sarah's grip tightened on her water glass. Fine. Check. But what happens when you find out I'm telling the truth? Are you telling the truth? About David being there? Yes. She took a sip of water, her eyes never leaving mine. About sleeping with him? That's more complicated. The glass slipped from my hands, shattering against the kitchen floor for the second time that day. What the hell does that mean? Sarah stared down at the broken glass, water spreading across the tiles we'd chosen together 2 years ago. It means maybe we both made mistakes we can't take back. I stared at the water spreading across our kitchen floor, mixing with the coffee stain I'd never properly cleaned from this morning. 2 broken glasses in one day, some kind of record for our household. Sarah, what the fuck does more complicated mean? She pressed her back against the counter, both hands cradling her belly now like she was protecting the baby from this conversation. It means I met David. We talked. We connected. Connected how? We had drinks at the hotel bar after the first day of sessions. He was charming, funny. He listened to me talk about us, about the miscarriages, about how lonely I felt. Her voice got smaller. He made me feel interesting again. Desirable. My chest tightened. Did you sleep with him or not? The pause stretched between us like a chasm. Sarah's eyes filled with fresh tears, and when she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I wanted to. That's not what I asked. We kissed, she whispered. In the elevator. And later, outside my hotel room. But when he invited me in. She shook her head. I couldn't do it. I kept thinking about you, about us, about the baby we might have someday. The relief that washed over me was immediately followed by rage. So you didn't cheat? Not physically, no. But you've spent 6 months letting me believe this baby might not be mine because you kissed some asshole at a conference. It wasn't just the kiss. Sarah's voice cracked. Don't you see? I wanted to sleep with him. For the first time in our marriage, I genuinely wanted to be with someone else. And it felt like a betrayal even though nothing happened. Jesus Christ, Sarah. I ran my hands through my hair, trying to process this. So the baby is mine. Yes. And you've known that this entire time. Yes. And you decided to torture me with lies because you felt guilty about a kiss? Because I felt like I was losing you. The words exploded out of her. Because you were already halfway out the door with Jennifer, and I was terrified that once the baby came, you'd realize you didn't want this life with me anymore. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. 6 months pregnant, tears streaming down her face, standing in a puddle of broken glass and spilled water. The woman who'd carried our child while lying to me about its paternity because she was afraid I'd leave her. So your solution was to convince me the baby wasn't mine. My solution was to see if you'd fight for us. For me. For this family we're supposed to be building together. By telling me you fucked another man. By telling you something that would force you to make a choice. Sarah's voice rose to nearly a shout. Stay and fight for our marriage, or walk away and prove that I was right to be scared. And I chose wrong. You called a lawyer within 6 hours, Marcus. 6 hours. You didn't ask me to explain, didn't suggest counseling, didn't even seem surprised. You just gave up. The accusation hit harder than I wanted to admit. She wasn't entirely wrong, some part of me had felt almost relieved when she'd given me permission to leave this morning. What did you expect? You told me the baby wasn't mine and you'd been cheating for months. What kind of response were you hoping for? I wanted you to be angry. I wanted you to care enough to be furious with me. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of that damn elephant dress. Instead, you just looked defeated. Like you'd been waiting for an excuse to leave. Maybe I had been. The honesty of it surprised us both. Sarah's face crumpled, and she slid down the cabinet to sit on the floor, not caring about the broken glass around her. At least you're finally being honest, she said. I grabbed the dish towel and started carefully picking up glass shards, needing something to do with my hands. Patricia's still going to verify your story. About David, about the conference. All of it. Good, Sarah said quietly. I hope she does. I hope she finds every detail and proves that I'm telling the truth about what actually happened. And then what? We just pretend the last 6 months of lies never happened. Sarah looked up at me from the floor, her hands still protective over our son. I don't know, Marcus. I honestly don't know if there's any coming back from this. For the first time all day, we agreed on something. The next morning, I woke up alone. Sarah's side of the bed was cold, the sheets pulled tight like she'd never been there at all. I found her in the nursery we painted together last month, soft yellow walls because we'd wanted to be surprised by the gender, though she'd let slip weeks ago that it was a boy. She was sitting in the rocking chair I'd assembled on a Saturday in February, still wearing yesterday's elephant dress, staring at the empty crib. The morning light filtering through the elephant-themed curtains made her look fragile, almost translucent. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked from the doorway. "Some." She didn't look at me. "I kept thinking about what you said last night. About maybe waiting for an excuse to leave." I stepped into the room that was supposed to be our son's sanctuary, surrounded by all the preparations we'd made together. The mobile I'd hung 2 weeks ago, the changing table stocked with diapers and wipes, the bookshelf already filled with picture books Sarah had been collecting since her first positive pregnancy test. "Sarah." I called in sick to work, she interrupted. "I thought maybe we should talk to someone. Together. Before Patricia Henley tears apart what's left of our marriage looking for evidence." The suggestion caught me off guard. "You want to go to counseling?" "I want to try something other than destroying each other." She finally looked at me, and I could see the exhaustion etched in every line of her face. "Dr. Martinez, my OB, she recommended someone. Dr. Rebecca Walsh. She specializes in couples dealing with pregnancy-related trauma." Trauma. The miscarriages, Marcus. The way we both shut down afterward. The way we stopped talking to each other and started talking to other people instead. Sarah's hand moved to her belly, a gesture so automatic I wondered if she even realized she was doing it. This didn't start with Denver or Jennifer. It started 2 years ago when we lost the second baby and decided to grieve separately. I sank into the glider chair we'd bought for late-night feedings, still in its plastic wrap. One session. What? One session with Dr. Walsh. Before I decide whether to call off Patricia's investigation. Hope flickered across Sarah's face. "Really? But I want complete honesty. No more games, no more tests. If we're going to try to salvage this, I need to know everything. Every conversation you had with David, every detail about what happened in Denver. And Jennifer." The question hit like a physical blow. "What about Jennifer?" "I want complete honesty too, Marcus. Every conversation, every feeling, every moment you chose to confide in her instead of me." Sarah struggled to push herself up from the rocking chair. "If we're doing this, we're doing it all the way." My phone buzzed with a text message. Jennifer's name appeared on the screen, and I watched Sarah's face harden as she saw it. "Client meeting moved to 10 a.m. Coffee before to prep." Sarah read the message upside down. "How many times a week does she text you?" I looked at the message thread, dozens of conversations going back months. Work stuff mostly, but personal too. Jennifer asking about my weekend plans, sharing funny stories about her cat, sending memes she thought I'd find amusing. I don't know. I never counted. More than I do. The accuracy of that observation felt like a knife between my ribs. When was the last time Sarah and I had exchanged casual texts during the workday? When had we stopped sharing the little moments that used to connect us? "Dr. Walsh has an opening at 2 o'clock today," Sarah said, watching me stare at my phone. "I already called." I typed back to Jennifer, "Can't make coffee. Family emergency." Sarah's eyebrows raised slightly. "Family emergency?" "Well," I said, looking around the nursery we'd created for a son I'd spent months believing wasn't mine, "isn't it?" Dr. Rebecca Walsh's office felt like the opposite of Patricia Henley's legal fortress, soft beige walls, comfortable fabric chairs, and enough tissue boxes strategically placed to suggest she'd seen her share of marital meltdowns. Sarah sat rigid in the chair beside me, her hands folded protectively over her belly, while I tried not to fidget with my wedding ring. "Before we begin," Dr. Walsh said, settling into her chair with a notepad that looked refreshingly normal after Patricia's gold-penned legal pad, "I want to establish some ground rules. This is a safe space for both of you to express feelings without judgment or retaliation. Can you both commit to that?" Sarah nodded immediately. I took longer, thinking about the divorce papers Patricia was probably drafting while we sat here. "Marcus?" Dr. Walsh prompted gently. "Yeah. Yes, I can commit to that." "Good. Sarah, when you called this morning, you mentioned that there had been infidelity in the marriage. Can you tell me more about that?" I tensed, waiting for Sarah to launch into her David story, but instead she looked directly at me. "My husband has been having an emotional affair with a coworker for the past year." "That's not," I started, but Dr. Walsh held up a hand. "Let her finish, Marcus. You'll have your turn." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "Her name is Jennifer Morrison. They have lunch together twice a week, text constantly, share inside jokes. He bought her birthday flowers. He tells her things about our marriage that he won't tell me." "And how did you respond to discovering this relationship?" Dr. Walsh asked. "I told him yesterday that I'd had an affair and that our baby might not be his." Dr. Walsh's pen paused mid-note. "Might not be his. Is his," Sarah corrected quietly. "The baby is definitely his." I lied. The therapist looked between us with the expression of someone who just realized she'd need the full hour. "I see. Marcus, how are you feeling about these revelations?" "Confused as hell," I said. 24 hours ago I thought I was having a baby with my wife. Then she told me I wasn't the father and she'd been cheating. Now she's admitting she made it up, but she's accusing me of cheating too. Have you been unfaithful to Sarah?" "Not physically, no. But emotionally?" The question hung in the air while I tried to figure out how to explain Jennifer. "I have a close friendship with a female colleague. We work together, we talk about work stuff, personal stuff sometimes. Sarah thinks it's inappropriate." "Is it?" Dr. Walsh asked simply. "Is what?" "Inappropriate. Do you have feelings for Jennifer that go beyond friendship?" Sarah turned to look at me, and I could see her holding her breath. The honest answer, the one I'd been avoiding even in my own head, was complicated. "Maybe," I admitted. "I don't know. I mean, yes, I'm attracted to her. And yes, I look forward to seeing her. But I've never acted on it. You bought her flowers, Sarah said, her voice barely controlled. For her birthday. They were just. When's my birthday, Marcus? The question hit like ice water. What? When is my birthday? You bought Jennifer flowers for her birthday in November. When's mine? Dr. Walsh watched this exchange with professional interest while I felt my face burn. Sarah's birthday was, March 15th. 2 weeks ago. I'd completely forgotten. Oh God, I whispered. You forgot my birthday, Sarah said, and now the tears were flowing. You forgot your pregnant wife's birthday, but you remembered to buy flowers for your coworker. Sarah, I'm so sorry. With everything going on, and work has been crazy. Stop. Dr. Walsh's voice cut through my excuses. Marcus, I want you to sit with what just happened here. How do you think Sarah felt when you forgot her birthday but remembered Jennifer's? The shame was overwhelming. Like I cared more about Jennifer than about her. And Sarah, how did you handle those feelings? Sarah wiped her eyes with a tissue. I started planning how to hurt him back. I'd been thinking about David, the man I met in Denver, for months. Not because I wanted to be with him, but because he represented this escape fantasy. So when Marcus forgot my birthday, I decided to make David real in the worst way possible. By claiming you'd had an affair with him. By claiming the baby was his. Sarah's hand moved to her belly again. I wanted Marcus to feel as disposable as he'd made me feel. I wanted him to know what it was like to lose something precious. Dr. Walsh made more notes, and I found myself wondering what she was writing. Probably something about two people who'd found the most destructive possible ways to avoid dealing with their actual problems. The miscarriages, I said suddenly. This all started after the miscarriages. Both women looked at me. Sarah's expression softened slightly. We used to talk to each other, I continued. About everything. But after we lost the second baby, it felt like we were speaking different languages. She needed space to grieve, and I needed. I don't know, normalcy, I guess. Connection with someone who didn't look at me and see all that loss. Like Jennifer, Dr. Walsh observed. Like Jennifer. And Sarah found that connection with David, even if nothing actually happened. The difference, Sarah said quietly, is that David was a fantasy. Jennifer is real, and she's still in your life every day. Dr. Walsh leaned forward slightly. What would each of you need to feel safe in this marriage again? The question seemed impossible to answer. How do you rebuild trust when you've both been systematically destroying it for months? I need Jennifer out of your life, Sarah said without hesitation. Completely. New job, transferred department, whatever it takes. I can't heal from this knowing you're still having coffee dates and intimate conversations with her twice a week. The request hit me like a physical blow. Jennifer wasn't just a colleague anymore, she was my closest friend, maybe my only friend if I was being honest. The thought of cutting her out entirely felt like losing a limb. That's not fair, I said. Jennifer didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't even know about our problems. Dr. Walsh raised an eyebrow. She doesn't know about your marital issues. But you mentioned telling her personal things about your relationship. Fuck. I'd walked right into that one. I mean, she knows things have been difficult since the miscarriages, but... What exactly did you tell her about us? Sarah's voice was dangerously quiet. I looked between my pregnant wife and the therapist, realizing I was about to detonate another bomb in our already destroyed marriage. She knows about the second miscarriage. About how you shut down afterward. About how we stopped being intimate. Sarah's face went white. You discussed our sex life with her. Not in detail. She was going through her breakup with Kevin, and we were both talking about relationship problems. It wasn't like I was giving her a play-by-play. Stop talking. Sarah's hands were shaking now. Just stop. Fucking. Talking. Dr. Walsh intervened quickly. Let's take a breath here. Sarah, can you tell me what you're feeling right now? Humiliated, Sarah whispered. He told another woman that his wife wasn't sleeping with him. He made me sound like some frigid bitch to his work crush. I never called you frigid. I would never. But you told her we weren't having sex. The accusation hung in the air because it was true. During one of Jennifer's late-night phone calls about Kevin, she'd asked if Sarah and I were doing okay physically after everything we'd been through. I'd been honest, maybe too honest. What did Jennifer say when you told her about your intimacy issues? Dr. Walsh asked. This was where it got really bad. She said that trauma affects everyone differently, and maybe Sarah needed more time to feel safe again. That sounds supportive, Dr. Walsh observed. She also said that my needs mattered too, I admitted quietly. That I shouldn't have to put my life on hold indefinitely while Sarah figured things out. Sarah made a sound like she'd been punched in the stomach. She encouraged you to leave me. She encouraged me to think about what I needed from a marriage. While I was grieving our dead babies. The raw pain in Sarah's voice made me want to disappear. When Jennifer had said those things 6 months ago, they'd felt validating, supportive. Now, sitting next to my 6 months pregnant wife in a therapist's office, they sounded cruel and selfish. Sarah, what do you need from Marcus to feel secure in this marriage? Dr. Walsh asked gently. I need him to choose me, Sarah said, tears flowing freely now. Not just say he chooses me, but actually do it. Cut contact with Jennifer. Stop working late to avoid coming home to me. Start acting like he wants this baby instead of treating my pregnancy like an inconvenience. The last accusation hit hardest because it was most accurate. I had been treating her pregnancy like an obligation, going through the motions of excited fatherhood while feeling disconnected from the whole process. Marcus, what would choosing Sarah look like to you? I stared at my hands, thinking about Jennifer's text this morning, about the coffee meetings and late-night conversations that had become the best parts of my week. I don't know if I can do it, I said finally. I don't know if I can give up the only relationship in my life that feels easy. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's soft crying was the only sound in the room until Dr. Walsh spoke again. Then I think we have our answer about whether this marriage is salvageable. Sarah stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against Dr. Walsh's hardwood floor. I need some air. Sarah, please sit down. We still have 20 minutes. No. She grabbed her purse, moving toward the door with that awkward pregnant waddle I'd grown used to over the past few months. I can't sit here and listen to my husband explain why his coworker is more important than his family. Dr. Walsh looked between us as Sarah paused at the door. What I'm hearing from both of you is a lot of pain that's been misdirected into destructive behaviors. Sarah, you're tasked with a fake affair. Marcus, your emotional investment in Jennifer. These are symptoms, not the actual problem. What's the actual problem? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. You stopped grieving together after the miscarriages. You both found ways to avoid dealing with that loss, and now you're having a baby in that unhealed space. Sarah's hand was on the door handle, but she hadn't left yet. It doesn't matter. He just told us he won't give up his girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. Then prove it. Sarah turned back to face me, her eyes red but fierce. Call her right now. Tell her you can't see her anymore. My phone felt like it weighed 100 pounds when I pulled it out. Jennifer's contact info stared back at me, hundreds of messages, dozens of calls, months of the emotional intimacy I'd been starving for at home. You're going to make him choose right here? Dr. Walsh asked Sarah. In my office? Why not? He's had 6 months to choose. Maybe it's time to force the issue. I stared at the phone, thinking about Jennifer's laugh when I told her about my disastrous attempt to assemble the crib. How she'd listened without judgment when I'd admitted feeling terrified about becoming a father. The way she'd said, "You're going to be great at this," with such certainty that I'd almost believed her. If I call her, I said slowly, and tell her we can't be friends anymore, what happens to us? Do we just pretend the last year never happened? Do we go back to being strangers who happen to share a house? We go to counseling, Sarah said. Real counseling. Twice a week if we have to. We figure out how to talk to each other again instead of talking to other people. Dr. Walsh nodded approvingly. That's actually a very reasonable approach. But Marcus, the decision has to be yours. Coerced choices rarely lead to lasting change. I thought about Patricia Henley's office, about the $15,000 retainer, about the divorce papers that would divide our house and our belongings and our son into neat legal categories. Then I thought about Jennifer's smile when she brought me coffee this morning, completely unaware that she was about to become collateral damage in my collapsing marriage. There's something else, I said, my thumb hovering over Jennifer's contact. Something I didn't tell you about Denver. Sarah's face went pale. What about Denver? I knew about your drinks with David. Jennifer found his LinkedIn profile when I told her you'd been acting strange. We spent an entire evening looking through his social media, trying to figure out if you were having an affair. The admission hung in the room like poison gas. Sarah sank back into her chair, looking like I'd slapped her. You investigated me. With her. We were worried about you. The late nights at work, the mood swings. You thought I was cheating 6 months ago, and you discussed it with Jennifer instead of asking me directly. Dr. Walsh was scribbling notes furiously. Marcus, when you suspected infidelity, why didn't you confront Sarah? Because I was afraid she'd confirm it. The truth of that statement hit the room like a sledgehammer. Sarah stared at me with something approaching horror. So instead of talking to your wife, you played detective with your girlfriend. She's not, I started, then stopped. What was the point of denying it anymore? We found David's presentation schedule from the Denver conference. Jennifer thought maybe you'd connected with him there, started an emotional affair that turned physical later. Later? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. What do you mean later? Dr. Walsh leaned forward, sensing we were approaching something critical. Marcus, what did you and Jennifer conclude about Sarah's relationship with David? I felt sick saying it, but we'd come this far. Jennifer thought the timeline didn't make sense for Denver to be when you conceived. She pulled up some fertility calculator online, cross-referenced it with your cycle tracker app. You went through my phone. Sarah's voice cracked on the last word. Just the fertility app. You left it open one morning in February, and I saw the dates. Jennifer helped me figure out that if you conceived when the doctor said you did, it would have been mid-December, not September. Sarah's hands flew to her belly, protective and panicked. So you've known for months that the baby was definitely yours. Not known. Suspected. Jennifer said we couldn't be certain without seeing your actual medical records. Dr. Walsh set down her pen, looking between us with barely concealed disbelief. Let me understand this. Marcus, you suspected your wife was lying about the affair, but instead of confronting her, you continued investigating with Jennifer. I thought maybe Sarah was having some kind of breakdown. The hormone changes, the stress of the pregnancy after 2 losses. Jennifer has a psychology degree. She said sometimes women create elaborate fantasies during high-stress periods. Jennifer diagnosed me. Sarah's laugh was harsh, bitter. Your work girlfriend decided I was having a psychological break. She was trying to help. She was trying to position herself as the sane alternative to your crazy pregnant wife. Sarah struggled to stand again, her movements sharp and angry despite her size. Jesus Christ, Marcus. You've been running a psychological evaluation on me for months with another woman. The worst part was how reasonable it had seemed at the time. Jennifer's calm analysis of Sarah's behavior, her gentle suggestions about trauma responses and pregnancy hormones. It had felt like having a partner in trying to understand what was happening to my marriage. There's more, I said, because apparently I was committed to burning everything down today. Dr. Walsh actually groaned. More. Jennifer offered to help with the baby. When Sarah told me yesterday that it wasn't mine, Jennifer texted me last night. Said if I needed somewhere to stay during the divorce, her spare room was available. She also said she'd looked into custody arrangements for cases involving paternity disputes. Sarah sat down hard, like her legs had given out. She what? She researched custody law. Sent me links to articles about father's rights when paternity is questioned. Information about supervised visitation, support obligations. She sent you this last night. While I was upstairs crying myself to sleep. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to Jennifer's messages from 11:47 p.m. No, this is horrible timing, but wanted you to have options. These articles might help. Call if you need anything, seriously, anything. You don't have to go through this alone. Sarah read the messages over my shoulder, and I watched her face cycle through hurt, rage, and something that looked like resignation. She's in love with you, Sarah said quietly. You know that, right? This isn't just friendship. She's been actively working to end our marriage. Dr. Walsh cleared her throat. Sarah, that's a significant accusation. What makes you think Jennifer has romantic feelings for Marcus? Because, Sarah said, pulling out her own phone, she told me so. The silence in Dr. Walsh's office felt like a vacuum after Sarah dropped that bomb. My brain struggled to process what she just said while she scrolled through her phone with shaking fingers. Here, Sarah said, turning her screen toward me and Dr. Walsh. Jennifer Morrison, sent to my work email 3 weeks ago. Dr. Walsh leaned forward to read, and I felt my world tilt sideways as Sarah read the message aloud. Sarah, I hope this doesn't seem inappropriate, but I'm concerned about Marcus. He seems so unhappy lately, and I can tell the pregnancy stress is affecting both of you. I want you to know that I care about him deeply, probably more than I should as just a colleague. I think he deserves to be with someone who appreciates how incredible he is. If you really love him, maybe you should consider whether you're the right person to give him the life he needs. This is coming from a place of genuine concern for his happiness. Jennifer. My mouth went completely dry. She sent you that? 3 weeks ago. Right around the time you forgot my birthday. Sarah's voice was steady now, cold with a fury I'd never heard before. Your girlfriend basically told me to divorce you because I wasn't good enough for you. I never. Sarah, I had no idea she sent that. Dr. Walsh was writing frantically. Marcus, were you aware that Jennifer had romantic feelings for you? No. I mean, maybe I suspected sometimes, but she never said anything directly to me. I scrolled through months of our text conversations, looking for signs I'd missed. She knew I was married. She knew about the baby. She knew about our problems, Sarah corrected. Every intimate detail you shared with her was ammunition she used against our marriage. That email wasn't concern, Marcus. It was a manifesto. My hands were shaking as I reread Jennifer's message. The calculated cruelty of it, sent directly to my pregnant wife, designed to plant seeds of doubt and insecurity. Did you respond to her? Dr. Walsh asked Sarah. I deleted it immediately. I was so humiliated that my husband's coworker felt sorry for me that I pretended it never happened. Sarah wiped her eyes. But it's when I started planning the David story. I figured if Jennifer thought I wasn't good enough for you, I'd give you both a reason to justify whatever was happening between you. Jesus Christ, I whispered, staring at the message that had apparently been the catalyst for everything. Sarah, why didn't you show me this 3 weeks ago? Because I was afraid you'd agree with her. The raw honesty of that admission hit the room like lightning. Sarah's voice broke as she continued. I was 6 months pregnant, exhausted, terrified about being a mother after losing 2 babies. And your beautiful, successful, non-pregnant coworker was telling me I wasn't worthy of my own husband. What was I supposed to do with that? Dr. Walsh set down her pen. So the David confession was retaliation for Jennifer's email? It was desperation, Sarah said. I thought if I could make Marcus fight for our marriage, prove that he wanted me more than her, maybe we could survive this. Instead, he called a divorce lawyer within 6 hours. I felt sick looking at the timeline. Jennifer's calculated message designed to undermine Sarah's confidence, Sarah's desperate lie about David, my immediate assumption that our marriage was over. We'd all been playing different games with the same devastating outcome. I need to see her, I said, standing abruptly. Jennifer. I need to confront her about this email. Marcus, sit down, Dr. Walsh commanded. This is exactly the kind of reactive behavior that's been destroying your marriage. You're going to storm out of here and have an emotionally charged confrontation instead of processing what we've learned. But I was already moving toward the door, my phone buzzing with another text from Jennifer. Hope your family emergency is okay. Dinner tonight if you need to talk. The casual intimacy of it, sent while my wife sat crying in a therapist's office, made me want to put my fist through a wall. I drove to Jennifer's apartment in a white-hot rage, Sarah's desperate calls going straight to voicemail. Dr. Walsh had tried to physically block me from leaving her office, but I'd pushed past her with a muttered apology and a promise to reschedule. The 20-minute drive to Jennifer's downtown loft gave me just enough time to rehearse exactly what I was going to say. Jennifer answered her door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun that somehow managed to look effortlessly perfect. The smile that spread across her face when she saw me, warm, genuine, completely unguarded, made my stomach churn. Marcus. I thought you had a family emergency. Is everything okay? She stepped aside to let me in, concern creasing her features. You look terrible. We need to talk. I stayed in her doorway, not trusting myself to enter the space that had always felt like a sanctuary for my complicated home life. About Sarah. About the email you sent her 3 weeks ago. The change in Jennifer's expression was immediate and telling, a flash of guilt quickly replaced by defensive calculation. What email? Don't. I pulled out my phone, reading directly from Sarah's screen. If you really love him, maybe you should consider whether you're the right person to give him the life he needs. Ring any bells? Jennifer's face went pale, but she lifted her chin defiantly. You weren't supposed to see that. You sent it to my pregnant wife, Jennifer. What the fuck did you think would happen? I thought she'd realize what everyone else can see, that you're miserable with her. Jennifer's composure cracked, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. Marcus, you come to work every day looking like you haven't slept. You forget to eat lunch because you're dreading going home. You light up when we're together in ways you never do when you talk about Sarah. So you decided to play marriage counselor by telling my wife she wasn't good enough for me. I decided to give her a chance to do the right thing before you wasted any more years pretending to be happy. Jennifer stepped closer, and I caught the familiar scent of her perfume, something light and floral that was nothing like Sarah's heavier vanilla fragrance. Marcus, when's the last time Sarah made you laugh? Actually laugh, not that polite chuckle you do when she tries to be funny. The question hit harder than I wanted to admit because I couldn't remember. That's not the point. It is exactly the point. You deserve better than a wife who treats you like an obligation. Jennifer's hand touched my arm, a gesture that had always seemed natural before but now felt manipulative. I know about the David thing, by the way. About her claiming the baby isn't yours. I stared at her. How could you possibly know about that? You texted me yesterday that you had a family emergency. I put two and two together when you didn't come to work today either. Jennifer's smile was soft, sympathetic. I also did some digging on David Kellerman from Hoffman Industries. My blood turned to ice. You what? I called their Denver office this morning, told them I was fact-checking a conference presentation for a trade publication. David Kellerman never presented at that conference, Marcus. He wasn't even in Denver that weekend. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Sarah had been specific about David's presentation topic, about meeting him at the hotel bar. If Jennifer was right about him not being there. How do you even know that name? I never mentioned David to you. Jennifer's pause was barely perceptible, but I caught it. Sarah must have mentioned him at some company event. Sarah's never been to our company events. She hates them, says they're boring. I stepped back from Jennifer's touch, pieces clicking into place. How do you know about David? Marcus, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. How do you know about David? Jennifer's carefully constructed facade finally cracked completely. Because I've been monitoring Sarah's social media for months, okay? Her LinkedIn, her Facebook, her Instagram. I saw her interact with David Kellerman's posts back in September. I've been keeping track of everyone she talks to online. The admission hung between us like toxic gas. I stared at this woman I'd confided in for months, seeing her clearly for the first time. You've been stalking my wife. I've been protecting you from someone who clearly doesn't appreciate what she has. Jennifer's voice turned pleading. Marcus, she's been emotionally manipulating you for months. The David story, the pregnancy drama, it's all designed to keep you trapped in a marriage that's making you miserable. Get away from me. I backed toward her door, my skin crawling. Stay away from me, stay away from Sarah, stay away from my family. Your family. Jennifer's laugh was bitter, ugly. Marcus, she told you the baby isn't yours. What kind of family is that? I yanked open her apartment door, turning back for one final look at the woman I'd almost destroyed my marriage for. The kind worth fighting for, I said, finally understanding what Sarah had been trying to tell me all along. I drove back to Dr. Walsh's office with my hands shaking, but Sarah's car was already gone. My phone showed 17 missed calls from her and 3 from the therapist. The last text from Sarah, sent 20 minutes ago, was just an address I didn't recognize. I found her at her sister Michelle's apartment across town, sitting on the couch with a cup of tea and red-rimmed eyes. Michelle answered the door with the expression of someone ready for war. She doesn't want to see you, Michelle said, blocking the doorway. I know about Jennifer, I called past her. I know everything now. Sarah, please. There was a long pause before Sarah's voice came from inside, let him in. Michelle stepped aside reluctantly, muttering something about too little, too late as I entered the small living room. Sarah looked exhausted, still wearing that elephant dress that seemed to have absorbed every emotional blow of the past 2 days. I went to Jennifer's apartment, I said without preamble. You were right about everything. She's been stalking your social media for months. That's how she knew about David Kellerman, she saw you interact with his posts back in September. Sarah's hand moved protectively to her belly. What else? She called Hoffman Industries this morning, pretending to be a journalist. David never presented at that Denver conference. He wasn't even there that weekend. The silence stretched between us while Michelle hovered nearby like a protective guard dog. So you know I was lying about sleeping with him, Sarah said quietly. I know you met someone who made you feel interesting again when I was too busy confiding in another woman to notice my own wife was drowning. I sat down in the chair across from her, maintaining distance. I know Jennifer sent you that email specifically to destroy your confidence. And I know she's been systematically working to end our marriage for months. Sarah's eyes filled with fresh tears. What did you say to her? I told her to stay away from our family. All of it. Then I did something I should have done months ago. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. I blocked her number. Deleted her from all my social media. Tomorrow I'm requesting a transfer to the Portland office. Michelle's eyebrows shot up. Portland. Marcus, that's 3,000 miles away. It's also a promotion I've been avoiding because Jennifer convinced me Sarah wouldn't want to leave Atlanta. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. But she never actually asked you, did she? I just assumed you'd say no because Jennifer said long-distance moves are hard on marriages. I would have loved Portland, Sarah whispered. I've been wanting to get away from here since the second miscarriage. Too many bad memories. The weight of how thoroughly Jennifer had manipulated both of us settled over the room. Every doubt she'd planted, every suggestion that had driven Sarah and me further apart, had been designed to position herself as my better option. The David story, I said. Was any of it real? Sarah nodded slowly. I did meet him at the conference. We did have drinks and talk about our marriages, his was ending too. But when he kissed me in the elevator, all I could think about was you. About how much I missed the man who used to listen to me like that. And the baby? Has always been yours. I've never doubted that for a second. Sarah's voice broke. I just wanted you to fight for us instead of planning our divorce. I called Patricia Henley an hour ago, I said. Cancelled the retainer. Told her the marriage was worth saving after all. Sarah looked up at me with something that might have been hope. Is it? Worth saving? I thought about Jennifer's apartment, about the woman I'd almost left my family for, about the lies and manipulation that had nearly cost me everything that actually mattered. Ask me in a year, I said. After we've done the work. Sarah smiled through her tears, the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. Dr. Walsh has an opening Thursday at 2, she said. I already rescheduled.